In 1998, two Stanford PhD students approached Yahoo with an offer. They had built a search engine. They called it Google. They wanted to sell it for $1 million. Yahoo said no. In 2002, they approached Yahoo again. Google was now worth $5 billion. Yahoo said no. They said Google was overvalued. They said they could build their own search engine. They were wrong. Today, Google is worth over $2 trillion. Yahoo is a shadow of its after-war projects in Vietnam. They sat key and nothing. And Yahoo burned the peanut butter's red. It sold its core business to Verizon for $4.80 billion. That was a fraction of what it was once worth. One decision, one mistake, one moment of arrogance, and Yahoo was never able to recover. This is the story of how a giant fell. How a company that defined the internet lost its way. How a series of strategic mistakes turned an empire into an afterthought. This is the story of Yahoo. Yahoo was born in 1994. Jerry Yang and David Filo were two Stanford graduate students. They started a website called Jerry and David's Guide to the World Wide Web. It was a directory of websites. They organized the web into categories. It was simple, it was useful, it became popular. They renamed it Yahoo. The name stood for yet another hierarchical, officious oracle. It was a joke, but it stuck. Yahoo grew fast. By 1995, it had millions of users. They raised millions in venture capital. They went public in 1996. The stock soared. Yahoo became the face of the internet. It was the company everyone wanted to be. Yahoo had everything. They had the traffic, they had the brand, they had the money, they had the talent. They were the internet's first superstar. They could have become Google. They could have become Facebook. They could have become Amazon. They could have become everything. But they didn't. They made mistake after mistake. And the first mistake was the biggest. The first mistake was Google. In 1998, Google was just a search engine. It was two guys in a garage. It had no revenue. It had no brand. It had no track record. It was just a better way to search. Yahoo had a choice. They could buy it for $1 million. They could build their own. They could ignore it. They chose to ignore it. That was a fatal mistake. Then in 2002, Google came back. They were now worth $5 billion. They were growing. They were dominant. They were the future of search. Yahoo had another choice. They could buy it for $5 billion. They could partner with it. They could compete with it. They chose to compete. They said they could build their own search engine. They couldn't. They never could. And that was the mistake they could never fix. From that moment on, Yahoo was playing catch-up. They tried to build their own search technology. They failed. They tried to partner with others. They failed. They tried to compete with Google. They failed. They could never catch up. Google wasn't the only mistake. Yahoo made many more. They had the chance to buy Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg was a young entrepreneur. He had built a social network. He wanted to sell it for $1 billion. Yahoo said no. They said Facebook was overvalued. They said social media was a fad. Today, Facebook is worth over $1 trillion. Yahoo is worth almost nothing. They had the chance to buy eBay. They had the chance to buy PayPal. They had the chance to buy YouTube. They said no to all of them. They said they could build their own. They couldn't. They never could. Yahoo also struggled with strategy. They didn't know what they wanted to be. Were they a search engine? Were they a portal? Or Yahoo? Were they a media company? Were they a technology company? They tried to be everything. They succeeded at nothing. They made a series of leadership mistakes. They changed CEOs constantly. They had different visions. They had different strategies. They had different cultures. They never had stability. They never had focus. They also struggled with culture. They were a media company trying to compete with technology companies. They were an old company trying to compete with startups. They were a bureaucratic company trying to compete with nimble companies. They couldn't keep up. They couldn't innovate. They couldn't adapt. The results were devastating. Yahoo's revenue peaked in 2007. After that, it went downhill. They lost market share. They lost talent. They lost relevance. The company that once defined the internet became irrelevant. In 2016, Yahoo sold its core business to Verizon. The price was $4.80 billion. The deal was finalized in 2017. It was a fraction of what the company was once worth. At its peak, Yahoo was valued at $125 billion. In the end, it was worth almost nothing. The story of Yahoo is a cautionary tale. It's a story of missed opportunities. It's a story of strategic mistakes. It's a story of arrogance. It's a story of complacency. It's a story of a company that couldn't see the future. The lesson? No company is too big to fail. No brand is too strong to fail. No lead is too big to lose. Jerry Yang later said, "We've had a lot of success. We've also had a lot of failures. But I don't regret it. I learned a lot. I learned to be more careful. I learned to be more patient. I learned to be more open-minded." That's a generous way of looking at it. But the truth is, Yahoo's failure was avoidable. The mistakes were clear. The opportunities were obvious. They just didn't act on them. So why did Yahoo fail? They didn't listen to the market. They didn't listen to the customer. They didn't listen to the future. They were too arrogant to admit they were wrong. They were too slow to adapt. They were too focused on the past to see the future. The real mistake was not just saying no to Google. The real mistake was not understanding what Google represented. It represented a new way of thinking. It represented a new way of doing business. It represented the future. Yahoo couldn't see that. They were stuck in the past, and the future passed them by. Yahoo is a warning to every business. Don't ignore change. Don't ignore innovation. Don't ignore competitors. Don't assume you're invincible, because you're not. And if you make the wrong decision, you may never recover. Yahoo never recovered. They had many chances. They had many opportunities. But the mistake they could never fix was the one that mattered most. They chose to ignore the future. And the future chose to ignore them. So what about you? Are you ignoring the future? Are you ignoring change? Are you assuming you're invincible? Or are you learning from Yahoo?